Peace, fellas. This is a very important message about the Harvard study that said men who ejaculate over 21 times a month were 20 to 30% less likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer as compared to men who ejaculated 4 to 7 times per month. Usually you don't hear that whole thing. You just hear that ejaculating 21 times a month is the way to maintain prostate health. And that is not true and is very dangerous. Please listen to me. Let's start first of all with the study itself. So they studied 3,000 men over 18 years. It turns out that they collected the data after the fact. What I hear from that is they call in a man and say, okay, well, how many times did you have sex about? How many times did you know what I'm saying? How many times did you ejaculate per month? They're asking this after the fact. So that data can be skewed. It could be cause for human error. It could be like, yeah, we did it every day, but it didn't really. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of room for error inside of that alone. That's the first thing that raises a red flag about the study. Secondly is the loss of nutrients, in the body. Now, everybody knows that the soil is not as nutrient rich as it once was. We eat more processed foods than we ever ate. Even if the study was done in 2004, the initial study, well, this is 21 years later. Now McDonald's is faker than that. Subway is faker than that. The pizza is faker than that. The food is no good. The food doesn't have the nutrients. So our bodies, we're draining our life force. And anybody who tried to keep up with that number would definitely be draining their life force, especially if they're not putting any energy towards recovery. How are you recovering after all of that, all of these ejaculations? Like, you know how people ask where you're getting your protein from? We should be asking where you're getting your zinc from, because you lose 3 to 5 milligrams of zinc every ejaculation. Every ejaculation is the equivalent of running 20 miles. Now, can you imagine running 20 miles 21 times a month? Even the best marathon runner in the world doesn't run those kind of miles. You will wear yourself out. And there's no difference with this male sexuality. You'll quickly wear yourself out and start draining your life forces. So I'm very weary of people, anybody who's in the health and wellness field and they're giving that advice. That's very wrong advice. That's very dangerous to give to men. Let's talk about something simple like circulation. Like if you aren't waking up with morning wood, then that's the sign that the blood isn't circulating throughout your genital region. When the blood is coming through the region, there's healing going on, there's replenishing, there's fluid, there's attention, there's iron and all the minerals in the blood that are running through there. But if it's not, then that's definitely a sign you don't need to be ejaculating 21 times a month, because your body's not even flowing right inside. You're going to cause an imbalance very easily, and that an overworked organ or gland like that is how it becomes inflamed and eventually diseased, by overworking it. And I would think that's 90% of the cases. We overwork our bodies because we don't put enough energy on replenishing and recovering our bodies after sex. But getting back to the study, when they say 21 ejaculations or 20% less likely to get prostate cancer, that's medically what you would call correlation and not causation, meaning that it just so happens that men that were healthier had sex more, or at least reported that they had sex more, but that is not the cause of them being healthy. You understand? They're not healthy because they have sex. They were healthy and they had sex. It just so happens. So that's correlation and not causation. So that's another thing that's not reported in that study. I think this is very important because all over the internet and all over my timeline, I see people saying, yeah, you got to ejaculate, or I see men showing the phone to their girl. You got to bust 21 nuts a month in order to be healthy, but that's not the case. Never say that sentence. 21 ejaculations a month will not make you healthy. This is not to say that we can't learn anything from the study. There is truth to the fact that stagnation is bad. So anything that's stagnant and sitting still will eventually attract disease and bad things too, because but the body has to move. It's made to move. It's like use it or lose it. But that doesn't mean that you have to ejaculate a certain number of times a month. But 21 times a month is just absolutely ludicrous. The other study group, the other end of it, was 4 to 7 times. So it was 20 to 30% less likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer as compared to men who ejaculated 4 to 7 times per month. So maybe there's a happy medium in between. In fact, inside the Best Damn Prostate book, there's a calculator where you take your age and multiply it by 0.02, and that will give you the number of how many times you can ejaculate safely during the month without dipping into and draining your life forces. And you still need to think about recovery at all times. Always think of recovery. So we can learn this from the study, that movement is good. So stagnation is bad and movement is good. So we do need to move our fluids. A couple more things and I'll land this plane. One is about semen retention. Some people say semen retention and abstinence and get the two terms convoluted. Abstinence first is just abstaining from having sex. So abstinence, they say, is not the best thing because that's the stagnation. Semen retention is totally different. Semen retention, you do have sex, or at least have a sex act. It could be masturbation or whatever it is. You do ejaculate, but you're able to keep the semen inside the body. So you do have a release, but the fluid doesn't leave the body. It stays in the body and is recycled throughout the body if you can do it correctly. So semen retention and abstinence are two different things. And with semen retention, you do actually have a release. You just hold the fluid inside of the body. So always know that. And lastly, I need to put my pauses in place, fellas. Have your mature pants on when we talk about this, and that is prostatic fluid. Now, the prostatic fluid makes up 20 to 30% of the overall volume of your semen. So every time you bust a nut, say busting a nut, the prostate is actually what busts the nut. It actually contracts and pushes the nut through, but 20 to 30% of that is the prostatic fluid. It joins with the sperm, and it's to nourish the sperm and protect the sperm as it goes and swims out, right? So that prostatic fluid can be released. You can have what's called a prostate release, or milking the prostate. That is releasing the fluid that is contained in the prostate. That's the prostate kind of flushing this system. It's kind of, let's say, an oil change for the prostate. All of its fluid is released, and it'll make new fresh fluid. That is healthy to do. Releasing that prostatic fluid maybe once or twice a year is healthy to do, under the same notion that stagnation is bad. Keep in mind that a prostate release, I want you to read about it in the Best Damn Prostate book, raisedstonebooks.com, shameless plug, please go check it out. The prostate can be stimulated and released on its own. And it's a total difference in the orgasm. It's the prostate is what they would call the male he spot. What you would call a G spot on a female. On a male, a he spot actually is the prostate, and it can be stimulated from the outside or the inside, and it will release fluids. And when that fluid releases, it's different. It's much more volume than semen. It's like a lot, and the orgasm is way, way, way more intense, and it's definitely different. Now, the reason I said put my pauses in place, a lot of men would be skeptical about that. I remember when Kevin Gates was on a Breakfast Club, and he's like, yeah, talking about eating booty, and everybody like, he to eat booty man, and all that. But then Charlamagne asked him, well, do you like to get your booty ate? And he got all serious, like, nah, I ain't got no feeling back there. You know what I'm saying? A lot of guys do that, like they have an over masculine, like, I ain't got no feeling, I don't like none of that or whatever. But this is anatomy, man. This is anatomy, fellas. You have nerve endings in your asshole. That's just a fact. That don't make you gay. That's like saying, I always use this example, it's like ticklish feet. It's like saying, no, nigga, my feet ain't ticklish. I ain't ticklish. You know what I'm saying? But if you sleep and your girl come and take a feather and rub it on your feet very gently, it's going to tickle. I mean, you have nerve endings on your feet. If it don't, you got hard, dead skin, and you need to scrape your feet and get that dead skin up off of there. But wait, so that's just a fact of anatomy. So that does not mean that you're gay in any way, just because there are nerve endings in your asshole, and the prostate can be stimulated. These are just facts of life. It doesn't make you gay. Now, if you and your boy sitting up in there playing tickle feet with each other, then that could be construed as gay. There's nothing wrong with gay, but I'm saying that would be where it's like, wait a minute, why are you tickling feet with this nigga? As far as getting back to the prostate and milking the prostate and all of that, that can literally be medically beneficial to the male body, for one, and for two, anything that happens between you and your girl, at least in my eyes, is not about gay. I've even heard some girls say that, yeah, I stuck my finger in this thing and I was ready for him to hit me. He didn't even do nothing. He gay. You know, we just have to get over some of those societal taboos, I think, on both sides. But I don't like to talk about this for that reason, because I don't like people to start coming at me with no funny, you know what I'm saying? There's no need for that. I'm just talking facts about the human body. I mean, think about it. People are so concerned with it being gay, but would you rather a doctor do it that you don't know, or would you rather your girl do it? Because that's all the doctor is going to do is stick his finger up your ass, and you're not going to be screaming gay there. You're going to say you had to do it. At least be in an environment that you can control. And I think that ultimately, that can build a lot of intimacy between couples. If a guy is that vulnerable to let a girl do something of that magnitude, you know, you're entrusting her and it's vulnerable, and it builds a level of intimacy that's very special. And I know there'll be a lot of jokes. A lot of people want to joke about, gay and fingering and ass and all that, but I'm just talking about anatomy, and I don't really play like that. So watch what you put in the comments and all of that. But anyway, The prostatic fluid can be released that way, and it is a healthy thing, as it could be considered a medicinal or healing practice to some degree. And I think that could be very beneficial, like an annual or biannual at the most thing that can be done to help the prostate stay healthy and relieve pressure on it by releasing all of that fluid and replacing it with fresh fluid. So those are just some thoughts on that. But I want you to, in closing, I want you to know, however you feel about the whole prostate thing, forget about that. But I want you to know that 21 ejaculations per month is crazy. You will definitely deplete your life sources. You'll be depleted of zinc, many other minerals. So in closing, I would just tell you to be cautious about that study. That's a Harvard study, 2004-2016, if you want to reference it. But be careful with those studies and headlines, because they know that we only read the headlines. They know we don't read the fine print. So they can put a study out that says Doritos are good for heart health. And that has so much legs, it can get all over social media and be all over before you look and say, wait a minute, these goddamn Doritos got everything fake in the planet. You know what I'm saying? So be careful with the headlines, and be careful talking about ejaculating 21 times a month is a way to maintain health. That's not true at all. Make sure you know that. And check out the Best Damn Prostate book, man. Listen to me on this. This is the 10-year anniversary book. I've been doing this for a whole minute. And a lot of people I see online doing it, they just trying to sell products or whatever. I'm not about that. I'm really about the health of my people, and I would like to see my people get healthy and thrive. So check out the book. The Best Damn Prostate book is at raystonebooks.com. Thanks for staying tuned, and stay tuned for a lot more. Peace.